Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. This evening, we are going to be making what I'm calling a peekaboo Z-fold card. I see Heather is joining us live. Hello, Heather. If you're joining live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can just say replay. I just noticed I've got some little pieces of rubble on my first mat. We had a lot of fun today crafting and chatting during We Craft Wednesdays. And so that was exciting. If you're ever available on a Wednesday and want to get some crafting done, then be sure to join us in our Zoom session. We always have a nice time chit-chatting with each other. And so when you're stuck in your craft room on a rainy, icky day outside, you got some friends you can hang out with. All right, so we're going to be making this Peekaboo Z-fold card. I'm using the Let's Party collection from the January-February catalog, and I'm going to be using some coordinating cardstock, some pattern paper, and stamp and die cuts. So lots of fun things happening. We're going to start out with a card base, and this is a standard card base, so it's 8.5 by 5.5. And I'm using the Bluebird cardstock for this. I'm going to go ahead and score it down the center, although I could just fold it in half, but you know, we'll be fancy, we'll score it. So I'm going to score it at 4.25. I gotta say that my craft room smells really good right now because I was baking some bread earlier, and the smell of the baked bread is lingering in my craft room. So if you hear me going, it's just because I'm drooling, even though I'm not hungry because we already had dinner and enjoyed the fresh baked buns that I made. All right, so we're going to fold this in half along that 4.25 score line and just crease that down. So this is our standard card base, and it's going to open on the horizontal like this, 4.25 by 5.5. Doesn't matter which side we use, either side works. And we are going to stick a piece of pattern paper on the front. And this pattern paper has been cut to 4 inches by 5.25. And it's the lovely banner paper from that Let's Party collection. I haven't used this one as much, but I think it's really fun for this card. Let me just reach over here. I forgot to grab my roll of adhesive before we started. And when I stick this down, you're going to see me adding a little more adhesive than I typically would. And there's a reason for that. You'll find out in a minute. We're going to make something that peeks through, so we need to make sure it's all stuck down good. And of course, when you're sticking it on the front of your card, you're going to want to make sure that you have your pattern going in such a way that all the little banners and bows are facing the correct direction. We're going to center that on the front of our card. Just stick that down like that. And then I need to bring in a thin cut. Now, I went through my thin cuts probably 4 times today. And do you think I could find my Basic Circles thin cuts, the newer one? This is the older one that only has the 4 circles. The newer one has 5 circles. So I'm missing the largest one, but it's actually this size that I needed. So at least there was that. I was cleaning in my craft room this week, but I didn't touch my die cuts at all, my thin cuts. And so who knows? Who knows what I've done with my circles? All right, so this is the 2.5 inch circle, which is the largest in this older set, but it's the second largest in the current set. Let me just grab my machine here. Off the floor. And I also need some washi tape. Let me grab that. And what I want to do is I want to stick this down kind of in the center of my card. I actually was working on this earlier today, and I didn't stick it in the center of my card, and I kind of regretted it. I had it a little bit farther to the top, which you would normally do, but I really needed to stick it down a little lower. In fact, I might actually put it just a smidgen south of center. Just a little bit extra towards the bottom. Try to eyeball it from side to side. And then I'm going to stick my washi tape on there. and just to hold that circle thin cut in place. And I'm going to run it through my machine, but I'm going to open it up, because if I ran it through like this, I'd have a hole right through to the back. I don't want that, so I'm going to open it up and only cut just this front part of my card. So because my plates are kind of old, I'm only going to run it in as far as I need to, and then I'm going to back it out. You probably can't see that. I don't know how much you can see off the side of my screen. And then we can pop that out. So now we've got our little peekaboo hole to the inside of our card. And I can get rid of my machine there. Toss it off to the side. Actually, I tossed it onto the floor. Right, Heather? Phew, I had the size I needed. And the reason I needed that size is because I wanted to add a frame of cardstock using the round shaker window thin cut that creates a stitched frame. And this piece that's in here cuts the exact same size as this. I needed the inner size, which is 2.5 inches. And so I've gone ahead and cut that frame out of the Bluebird cardstock as well. So that's going to go on there, and that just kind of finishes that edge. Makes it look a little nicer than just the cut off pattern paper. Gives it a finished look. Sometimes we need that finished look. And so now I'm going to attempt to put adhesive on this. Definitely easier with liquid glue. And just going to go all the way around like so. And then line it up. The one good thing about liquid glue is if you need to adjust any little bits a smidge, you've got that working time to make any corrections. And then make sure it's well stuck down all around the circle. And that creates such a fun, nice frame for the front of the card, don't you think? I think it does. There we go, like so. Okay, let me put the lid on that. We don't want it to dry out. All right, now the next thing we need to do is we need to work on our Z fold part of the peekaboo. We've got the peekaboo. Now we need the Z fold. And so for this, we're going to take a piece of white daisy, and this has been cut to 8 inches by 5. Let me just double check. 8 inches by 5, yes. And we're going to line it up here on the Versamat because we're going to make a couple of score lines. Grab my ruler and my bone folder. You could also use a scoreboard. So along this 8-inch side, we're going to score it at 4 inches. So line it up at 4 inches. And then we're going to score it at 6 inches. Like that. So 4 and 6. And then we can go ahead and fold it over on that 4-inch line and just make sure that everything lines up nicely like that. And then this second piece, we're going to fold back on itself. And you probably think, this looks odd. Normally we would make a card like this, where it would fold like that. But you'll see why in a minute, why we're doing it this way. So we've got our 4-inch piece here. We folded it, and now we're folding this one back on the 6-inch crease. And make sure everything lines up nice. Like so. Okay. Now, next thing we need to do is add a little bit of decoration, and it's probably easier to do that before we put everything together. So I've got a piece of this lovely icon pattern paper, and I actually cut it as a solid piece and then trimmed it in half. And so these pieces are 1 3/4 by 4 3/4. So if you've got a pattern that you want to maintain across, you're going to cut a 3.5 by 4 3/4 piece and then trim it at the 1 3/4. And these two pieces are going to go here, spanning over this crease line, the 6-inch crease line. So let me just add some adhesive here. They're going to be centered on those two panels. That pretty confetti paper there on the back. If I can grab it. There we go. Line it up, center it-ish, stick it down, and we'll do the same thing with this one, and making sure that I keep that pattern flowing across. What's kind of giving it away for me is that balloon, the heart balloon in the center. I mean, there's going to be a gap, 1/4 inch gap in between, but that's okay. I just think it's nice that the pattern travels across. If you're using a paper like this confetti, then it really doesn't matter if you do that. It's kind of an unnecessary step with an all over pattern. So there we go. We've got our nice little Z fold happening there, a little accordion. Here's the noise. Always have to do the noise. So if we bring in our card base, this insert is actually going to go inside of our card, and we're going to center it on this right-hand side, on the inside. So let's go ahead. We'll add some adhesive to this, like so. And I'm avoiding putting any adhesive in the center because I am going to be doing some stamping by and by. And so if I put adhesive along there, it might kind of mess with my stampity stamping. And we want to center that in here. And there will be a little bit more gap at the top and bottom than there is at the sides. That's just how it is. And so now when we close it, oh, isn't that weird? We've got this, weird design happening here. So the solution to that is we're going to take the same thin cut that we used to cut the circle on the front, that 2.5 inch circle, and we're going to cut a piece of white daisy, and it will fit right in there. But we want to stamp on that. So let's grab from the Let's Party Scrapbooking Stamp and Thin Cuts. We're going to grab the stamp that says, "Isn't that old?" So there we've got that. And I'm going to use the Candy Apple Red for this stamping, because that's a lovely color that coordinates with all this paper. It's already been seasoned up. So we're just going to ink it all up. And then we're going to stamp it. And a little bit of it will go off the edge. Just a tiny little smidgen of it. But that's okay. So there we go. Isn't that old? Set that aside. And then what we can do, instead of trying to put adhesive on the back of this and figure out where we need to put it, I'm going to keep this closed and add adhesive on this part of the paper that's inside, just like this. That is the easiest way to get these pieces aligned. And then I'll remove the backing. And because we use the same size of thin cut to create those circles, I know that if I just take this circle and stick it inside that other circle, as long as I put it in there straight, it will line up just right. So there we go. Stick it down. And now we have that nice pop-out circle. So if you've ever attempted a card like this and didn't know how in the world you were going to line that up, as long as you cut your two pieces, your circle and your hole, with the same thin cut, then just close it and add it that way, okay, before you add too many other things. Now I want to do some stamping on the inside of my card, but I don't want a lot of it to be showing. So I'm going to take my little pencil here, and I'm just going to make a couple little pencil marks to give myself just an idea of where the edges of that paper is. And actually I got some pencil on that flap. So when I open it up, you can see that I've kind of given myself a little bit of a guideline to work from. Open everything up. And then I'm going to bring in two stamps. I'm going to bring in the happy banner and the birthday. And I've loaded them up together on one block. And the little bit of the bow is going to be sticking out. That's okay. I'm totally okay with that. So I'm going to be using the Bluebird ink for this. I hope you can see where I've got this farther down on the thing. I can't see my video right now, so I don't see what's in the screen and what's not in the screen. Hey, Mom, nice to see you're watching. Hey, Joanne, good evening. So we're going to ink this up, and this is a one-shot deal because we've already got a lot of stuff going on our card. So we want to make sure we get this well inked before we apply it to our paper. And again, that one little bow is going to stick over. I'm acknowledging that, and I'm okay with that because a little bow sticking out is not terrible. Just going to stamp that down, and there we go. We've got our happy birthday in Bluebird. And then we can come in with our eraser and just get rid of our little guidelines. Just like that. There we go. So now when this closes, you just see that little bow sticking out. Totally okay with that. All right, now part of this stamp and thin cut set are these really cool numbers. And these are 2-inch dies. We were actually talking about those today. The fact that they're 2-inch dies. They're nice big numbers, sorry. 0 through 9, so you can do all the different combinations for a birthday. So I've gone ahead and I've used some candy apple cardstock and some silver glitter paper to cut out the number 48. I wouldn't want to say it too loudly, but my husband will be 47 next year, but my bestie is going to be 48, so shh, she might be getting this card in the mail. Now what I want to do is I actually want to create like a drop shadow for these glittery numbers, and the reason I want to do that, if I put those numbers on there, yes, they're sparkly, but they don't stand out as much from that busy background. But if I add a little drop shadow like that with the red, then you can definitely see those numbers a little, see them better. So what I need to do is I need to only put some glue on the right and top of all of these lines. So I'm avoiding the bottoms. So if you keep your glue to the right and upper, then you can go ahead and create that drop shadow. Like that, just line them up, stick them down, make sure you get them somewhat straight, give them a good squish. You could do the opposite way too. You could have the glitter as the drop, like that, which is kind of fun, but I decided to go with glitter on top. So for the 8, again, we're going to stick to the right-hand side. So the right-hand side of the inner edges. We can add some in the center there, and then the right-hand side of these right side edges. And stick that on. You want to leave about the same amount of the cardstock sticking out so it doesn't look odd. Give it a good squish, 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 squish. And then what I want to do also to make them stand out a little bit more on this front is I want to add some foam tape, and I'm going to kind of put them at an angle here. I want to do it sort of like that, where we've got 48, which allows a little bit more of this stamped image to be seen. So I only really need to put foam tape at the top. We're going to avoid the little bottom bits. So I've got the narrower of the 3D foam tape, and we'll go ahead stick some of this on the back side like that, and a little bit down there, but we're going to avoid the bottom. We're going to do the same thing over here. This one I'll actually cut smaller pieces because we got to go around a curve like that, and that, and one more over there. Good. So we're going to make this pop up off the background a little bit. There we go. Take all that backing off. And then we can kind of line that up like so. And then our number 8. Whenever I'm sticking anything down, you'll notice that I'm squishing my card down so that it stays kind of closed, so I have a better idea of what I'm covering up in the center. There we go. And There's our 8. 48 isn't that old. And then we need some bling on here because we need something to go with that silver glitter paper. So we've got our silver glitter gems. And I'm just going to use the large size of the glitter gems. I always find the easiest way to remove these from the carrier sheet is with the piercing tool. Just slide it right under. And I'm going to add them just half and half along this frame that I've added, just so it's kind of balancing out the glitter at the top left. We're going to put them on the bottom right. And there we go. We have created our Peekaboo Z fold card using Let's Party. We started out with our Bluebird base, cutting a pattern paper to fit on the front with all those fun banners. You really don't need a lot of decoration with those fun banners. And then cutting out our peekaboo hole with a 2.5-inch circle, the frame in Bluebird using the shaker window frame. And then, of course, cutting out that white daisy to go in the middle, stamping it out, adding on our drop shadowed letters using the thin cuts from that Let's Party Scrapbooking Stamp set. And then on the inside, we have this fun Z fold that opens up and shows the happy birthday. And of course, we can add some writing down here, but we also have this whole panel here in behind that we could add a nice big message if we wanted. And of course, it does stand up, and you can have this part just kind of hanging out there, or it can be closed down like this. And I think that's a super fun card. And so there we go, our Peekaboo Z Fold card. I hope you enjoyed seeing that come together. And if you create a card like this, take a photo of it and pop it in the comments where I post the photos of this particular card. All right, have a wonderful evening. Happy Wednesday, and we'll see you again soon. Toodaloo. Bye.